Dan slays it again. Welcome to another Drinks and Movies Director Showcase breakdown. And I got to bring him in right here. Dan
Hi.
slays the intro again.
Sir. It'd be great if most of the people that were in that intro who were supposed to be on the panel 6 months ago were here.
Yes. Welcome to the show where usually we ask a whole group of 5 of us to come and join. And inevitably it ends up being cheers to you, Dan and I, as the two that make the show. So whether you've watched the show as Drinks and Movies or Scotch and Celluloid and Scotch.
Celluloid and Scotch.
There you go, Celluloid and Scotch. Yeah. Or the mixtures of all the different ones in between, the vibe check and all these different things. It's basically just a late night show where Dan and I get together and talk about movies. And we pick an odd topic or a general discussion topic and then run rampant across all kinds of different things.
I feel like the vibe check's just going to be the constant at this point because it just ends up being me and you anyway.
It's the most consistent of the shows at this point.
Yeah.
So we've been doing this year, 2023, a little bit of a director's showcase. It was an idea I threw out to this group of movie homies to say, like, hey, what if we just picked a filmmaker and then looked at as many of their movies as we possibly can? We've done a few of these so far, back and forth between my channel and Dan's. A few. I've said a few. And we have been trying to get around to Guy Ritchie, which was Carlito's suggestion for a little while now. So here we are. Tonight we're talking about the films of Guy Ritchie, and we're gonna spend a little time breaking down some of his best and maybe potentially worst movies, depending on how you feel about his films. Want to say hi to the people in the chat. We got Magic Lasso saying he's going to listen to Madonna records instead. There is a Madonna film that we could discuss, but I'm hopeful that we will not. Brother John says he's here because he loves you guys and he loves Guy Ritchie. Respect that. He says Aladdin underappreciated, and I told him Aladdin is one of, I think, only 3 of his movies that I still haven't seen at this point. I spent the week and the last few months, and tried to watch as many of his movies as I had missed. And I saw a bunch of his newer films, especially, but Aladdin somehow has still evaded me. I will need to check that out. Vinny says he needs a Rosetta Stone for understanding Brad Pitt and Snatch. I think that's hilarious. Well played.
Man.
Kenneth Bird is here. What is going on, Kenneth? Good to see you, sir. Coach Vic, always good to see you in these movie chats. He says, I'm looking forward to see what movies of his I've seen. So there you go. Appreciate that. I missed it. Don Gustavo, what is going on? What is that logo? Is that a fishtail? I think it's a fishtail. What is up, Scotty Vaughn? Thank you for coming in, my man. I hope you're doing well. And we got Comic Head 84 Night Owling. I hope you're doing well, Kenny, because I know you're on the East Coast like Dan, up late here to get us kicking off with these Guy Ritchie movies. So, Dan, I want to start off with just a couple general questions about Guy Ritchie and your thoughts on Guy Ritchie first, before we get into specific movies. Having now watched a handful or a majority maybe of his movies, do you feel like Guy Ritchie has themes or ideas that are prevalent in his films that you feel like you see now more, having gone back and sort of watched some of his stuff?
So early on, yes, and I feel like he realized that he kind of became repetitive to a point where he went way out of his box.
Yeah.
And there's a filmmaker who used to be one of his understudies in DPs who came around later, Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah.
Who I will straight up say did a Guy Ritchie movie better than Guy Ritchie with Layer Cake. And then
Daniel Craig movie. Yeah.
Yes. And then did X-Men First Class, like, not long after
I literally tonight just watched Kingsman.
One of my favorite X-Men movies.
Yeah.
It's a fun one.
It's a great one. Yeah. But I just was watching Kingsman Secret Service, which is a really great movie that Matthew Vaughn did as well.
So weirdly, Guy Ritchie is one of those guys I feel started his own subgenre for a while. And then everybody started doing the same kind of movies, and kind of like with Tarantino.
Yeah, I'm going to go a step backwards from that and say, because I remember having my brother take me, he and I were big Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs fans, and then he took me to go see Lock, Stock at a little art house theater near us. And I instantly felt like, okay, this is the Tarantino effect. We're going to start getting some of these. Of course, later we got, 3 Days in the Valley or whatever it was, and several other movies that were in that same genre. Or was it 2 Days in the Valley? 2 Days in the Valley.
I think it was 2 Days in the Valley.
You could definitely see the Quentin Tarantino fingerprint on some of those early films, done in a uniquely British way, but certainly with that same feel. And then I think, like you said, he's branched off since then and gotten a little bit more broad in the kinds of product that he produces or creates. My feeling, my biggest takeaway from him was he definitely loves a good romance story. Like he likes guy bonding, male bonding, male mentorship stuff as like the focal point of almost all of his movies. This concept of dude bros, like there's in usually a very odd, unusual, and entertaining, fun way, but that seems to be something that's always prevalent.
Started my man crush on Jason Statham real early on.
Yeah, Statham is a regular, obviously from Lock, Stock, Here into Snatch, Revolver, and several others.
He has regulars, just like Tarantino, that he brings in and out.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because sometimes it's weird when you have a director where you'll go, I think their early work is so much superior to their later work as they became more famous, which becomes no one's really saying no.
Right? I feel like that's common, right?
Sometimes, although like I feel like Danny Boyle might be kind of the outlier where I think as a filmmaker, he got better.
And I will
technical
say,
as it went on.
My biggest takeaway from watching a handful of these films that I hadn't seen before was how much I like some of his later films. In particular, we'll get to Gentleman and The Covenant, which I think are possibly two of his best movies.
I know you spoke very highly of The Covenant.
Yeah, both came along here in the last 5 years. I think he might be
Covenant's this year
a resurgence.
Was it because
Gentleman was 5 years ago?
Maybe yeah. Was it because you didn't expect much that you were pleasantly surprised?
I don't think so. And especially in the case of The Gentleman, like it feels like a throwback to his Snatch, the Lock, Stock era, but at the same time seems like an update, like he's modernized those themes a little bit. So, but let me say hello to NorCal. What's going on?
What's up, man?
And que onda to Borinquen. Good to see you, Angel. And then Kenny says, the director, I always feel like I'm going to like more than I do.
There's directors like that. I go in.
His career in particular, I think Guy Ritchie has this roller coaster EKG chart of like stuff that I want to own and rewatch and is super entertaining, and stuff that I will never watch again. It's just one of those, What's up, Four Color Commentary? So I'm gonna since I've been talking about it a little bit, I'm kind of gonna start with The Gentleman, and then I'll throw it to you if you have a movie you want to talk about next. Firstly, I don't know if you saw The Gentleman, but I went and found it streaming. This is a Matthew McConaughey, Hugh Grant film. Again, crime people in and around London. And in particular, this character by Hugh Grant, who's kind of telling this outlandish story as a way to sort of keep from having to die. He's going to tell this outlandish tale, like Arabian Nights style. And it involves this character played by McConaughey and the journey he went through as a sort of crime lord, right?
It almost sounds like Four Rooms when you start describing it.
It's one character telling another character's life story in a sense, or at least like a portion of it. And it works because of two great performances by Hugh Grant, like you've never seen him. Just a really unusual performance by Hugh Grant. He's just like sleazy and kind of like scuzzy, and I just hate this guy. Everything about this guy is creeping me out. And then McConaughey has this like, I don't know, handsome drug, he's got the like sexy Scarface thing going, and I think he really nails it as well. And the movie has that, you don't know where it's going to go, spinning wild story. I found it funny, I found it exciting, and I didn't know where it was going to go at any particular point. So I don't know if you've had a chance to see it.
I didn't get a chance. Again, this is a weird thing because we originally were doing this 6 months ago, and I was very fresh with everything, and then trying to catch back up once we got a date on this was
That's fine.
So we're kind of going to be jumping around a little
Totally.
bit.
But I just want to shout that one out, and I'll throw up I've got all the posters for his movies here. So as we bring one up, I'll throw the poster up. Let me see if I can scroll all the way up to Gentleman. So if you haven't seen The Gentleman, there's Colin Farrell there in the tracksuit. A really great cast all around. I can't remember from what's that British Manor show that everybody loved? About the American who ends up getting the manor and then dies, and then
yeah, they got Charlie Hunnam in it.
Charlie Hunnam's over there. He's the right hand man for McConaughey.
Henry Golding.
The woman though is from that British show, and I'm struggling to remember it now.
I know what you're talking about. Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey, yeah. The main woman from Downton Abbey is McConaughey's lady friend or wife. But again, great cast, really, really, really well handled overall. And I think if somebody is looking for a fun, quirky, crime kind of thing, a Tarantino-esque kind of movie, they really could do a lot worse than this.
So I got to say something about an actor in this, because Colin Farrell later in his career now has actually become a pretty damn good character actor.
Right. Right.
I don't think he's a leading man now, kind of in the same way. I think I like him more as a character actor because Brad Pitt, when he does the character actor stuff where he's not the main star, sometimes I think he outshines the stars because he can just disappear into the character.
His charisma, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like there's something about because Penguin in particular.
Sure. Great movie.
Like
great
he disappeared in the makeup, and The Lobster I watched, which he was fantastic.
I'm not gonna. I have zero praise for The Lobster. I hated that movie.
Oh no, I thought his performance was good.
I couldn't handle any of it. I was like, I kept trying to want to turn it off the whole time, and I can't believe I actually finished it.
Well, that was The Whale for me because it was depressing for me to see Brendan Fraser in this state.
I haven't seen that either. Yeah, it was
a strong performance. It was just rough to watch.
Oh, I'm sorry you didn't like it, Kenny. I thought it was a lot of fun. So I definitely think it's worth a shot if people haven't checked it out. And we'll definitely get to The Covenant because I did enjoy that as well. Did you have one that you watched that you look back on either fondly or with hate?
One I watched that I thought after watching it the first time I would not like. It's on the second viewing. The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Good pick. This is really entertaining.
Yeah, it was a good movie, and it's so out of his wheelhouse.
Yeah,
with these performances, and that's where I started thinking, oh, Henry Cavill doesn't suck from all those Superman movies. Like he's good, and Armie Hammer, solid.
Yeah, and, I think the movie didn't hit because that's how they advertised it, and I don't know that the chemistry between the actors was really great, but individually, Alicia Vikander, I think they really individually did something interesting here, and it was a lot of fun. I watched this with the whole family, and we enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really liked it. This was one, again, I watched it the first time, and I kind of had those moments where I was like, it kind of feels like an acting dick measuring contest between the two.
You can definitely feel that there was some competitive, maybe who's the lead actor in this movie thing.
But that was also the characters, so maybe that
truly,
was better acting than I originally thought. Because then again, I had vibes of when I watched Bram Stoker's Dracula, where I was like, oh, they're trying to see who can eat the most scenery between Oldman and
absolutely.
Yeah, because oh my god,
everybody in all those movies were Anthony Hopkins and
Anthony Hopkins,
Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder.
Anthony Hopkins in particular was so over the top.
Yeah. And it's the same in Man from U.N.C.L.E. I can totally see that, but it didn't stop from being fun. And I'm not calling this like high art or super high quality. It was just an entertaining, fun movie. The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
It was
and way better than I remember it the first time.
So this was the first time I was like, Henry Cavill might be a good Bond. And then I watched Mission Impossible with him in it, and I was like, he'd be fucking amazing.
He would be. Yeah. He's past his opportunity, I think, by now to get that job because he's now too big a name. But yeah, he would have been a great Bond.
Was Daniel Craig? He was somewhere in between. He wasn't a huge name. I mean, in England,
they had Layer Cake hadn't even really come out when they announced. It was like it was in art, like film festivals. It had not actually landed in theaters for public audiences.
And then he was in that Aronofsky movie. What was it?
Yeah.
The tree. Not the tree. Oh,
It's not the fountain.
The Fountain. That was it.
Oh,
yes.
yeah. The one with Hugh Grant. Hugh Jackman.
With Rachel Weisz.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was another one that maybe like...
I really enjoyed this, though. I want to recommend it. And with my kids, they all really enjoyed it, too. I don't remember the show well enough, Kevin. Like, I don't remember the series. It's funny because my wife, this morning we spent time watching new trailers for stuff. And we watched the Fall Guy trailer. I don't know if you saw it, the Ryan Gosling trailer. I was laughing the whole way through. I thought it was really funny. And then she's like, "Oh, yeah, it reminds me of the show." And I was like, "Oh, God, I totally forgot that was
Lee
show.
Majors?
I don't know that I ever watched it as a kid. I think that was
I was busy watching it all the time.
I was watching like Simon and Simon and Magnum PI and Quantum Leap. And
so Hunter, Fall Guy I used to watch.
Spencer for Hire.
Comedy show that was like Dirty Harry called Sledgehammer that I loved.
Yeah.
Comic Head, it is a spy movie.
This one, yes, this is a spy movie. It's basically spies from two different countries that have to kind of work together because there's an international crisis, but they don't like each other and they don't want to work together.
And they're kind of both wanting to bone Alicia Vikander,
which makes sense. I mean,
she's not a great actress.
She is not a great actress, but she works in this. She does.
But I will say, Ex Machina.
Oh my
gosh.
Great
movie.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Well, and then what was the other? I mean, the one that brought her to fame, was it the girl with the pearl earring, or?
I thought it was Ex Machina that really.
No, she had a period piece film that she did.
Fudge.
I think
the Danish girl.
The Danish girl. Thank you. Yes, the Danish girl. I had girl. And
the girl with the pearl earring was Scarlett Johansson.
There you go. See, yeah, the Danish girl. Thank you.
Yeah.
So was there more you want to say about this one before we?
No, honestly, like go into this just expecting an entertaining movie of like jockeying. Like it's a dick measuring movie. It really is.
It's light. It's goofy. It's silly. It's exciting and funny, and I think worth the time.
There's a little bit of like pulp to it, where it's just watching like the old, like not Chinatown because that's a little bit more high art, but just kind of there's the girl of intrigue, the two guys who are kind of falling for her, and it's also like spies, spy versus spy in like the weirdest way.
Yeah, totally. Well, like Mission Impossible, the TV series, in a way, more than the movie, obviously.
I barely watched that series.
You did it?
I barely.
Yeah, I didn't catch a ton of it, but I
watched a lot more Love Boat than anything else.
I get that. So yeah, the other more modern, obviously this is the one that dropped this year, is The Covenant, which it's actually called Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, which I didn't realize he was to that level of auteur where he gets his name above the title of the movie now.
On Prime Instant, if I recall.
Yes, it was on Amazon. So you can watch this right now. And I'm sorry, I should have been listing the streaming services up to now, but I don't know that I remember all of them because it's been so long since I watched some of these. But this was really interesting. So the plot, for those that don't know, it's not a true story, but it centers on Gyllenhaal's character, who is working in the Middle East as a soldier and needs an interpreter for his team. And he gets this new guy to be his interpreter. He's not sure if he trusts him. And we get to see a few little missions that they're going on where he starts to learn that not only can he trust this guy, but this guy has a big axe to grind in the infighting in his nation. And it ultimately leads to a very dramatic sequence where Gyllenhaal is left incapacitated and his interpreter has to drag his body across incredibly difficult terrain to save his life. And he goes through incredibly great challenges in saving Gyllenhaal, only to have Gyllenhaal sent home and the interpreter basically kicked back to his tribe or his city and have to fend for himself among the people that are now trying to kill him. And then the second half of the story is Gyllenhaal trying to find a way to pay that debt back by getting the interpreter out of that country and into the U.S. in the way that he feels he deserves. Now, it's not a true story, but it's definitely a movie that is trying to honor those people in these war-torn countries that are working as interpreters for our troops. And so the film and several points and key sequences is really designed to make us feel sympathetic and understand the burden that it takes to, in some cases, be caught in the middle of a civil war in your own nation and try to pick sides, and not knowing how that will leave you in the end. So great performances by the two leads. I thought this was incredibly powerful. It reminded me of movies like American Sniper or Hurt Locker, maybe not at that level, but certainly worthy of being in that same conversation. Dan, did you have any thoughts on it?
So where would you put this in the Gyllenhaal performance? Because he's a guy that I feel his performances are wildly varying. Where like there's a movie that I don't feel enough people saw that I think him and Tobey Maguire were fantastic in, Brothers.
Oh yeah, that's the one when
Natalie Portman, where he was
yes,
a
oh my
POW.
gosh, that's powerful. Oof.
Great movie, and I just don't.
God.
When people kind of dog on Tobey Maguire, and I'm like, oh no, like you got to watch that movie. Like
I don't dog on Tobey Maguire, but yeah, I know people that he doesn't work for them.
Yeah, well, I mean, after emo finger gun Spider-Man.
Everybody has a director that takes them in the wrong way sometimes. Takes them in the bad, makes a bad choice. Oops, sorry, I've got to go this way.
Ooh, NorCal, good one, Southpaw.
There's some great comments in the chat. I wanted to say hi to my dad. What's up, Dad?
Oh, hey.
How you doing? He really liked Covenant. We talked about it when we were on a trip recently together. NorCal mentioning Heather Thomas.
That was.
I'm quizzing Dan to see if he knows the answer because John always says yes, that's correct. We quiz each other.
You are correct, sir.
Kenny says Gyllenhaal's become one of his favorite actors, like top 3. He's incredibly versatile, right? I mean, just a guy who can do a lot and seems to really be comfortable in all kinds of movies, whether it's a Marvel movie or whatever. Sheena, my love, my friend, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a good Friday night.
And also go sub up her channel, Melanin and Manga.
Melanin and Manga, right? Yes,
because
absolutely.
They were on the road to 100. They might have hit 100. I did not see the announcement, but
yeah. If you're still in the chat and you can log in as Melanin and Manga and comment in the chat, people can see the name and click over, hopefully, to find you.
Sheena is one of the biggest supporters of most of the community in the channel, not in the channel, but most of the channels in the community.
For sure.
Always showing love. So this is our chance to kind of pay it forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is definitely another bromance story, like a lot of what we see from Guy Ritchie, for sure. We got Blood Spatter. What is Overno? How you doing, my man? Good to see you, sir. And NorCal saying, love Gyllenhaal and Southpaw, but I also like boxing movies. I think boxing movies are really an underappreciated sport genre because I think they really are some of the more compelling. And I'm not a big boxing fan, but there's just a ton of really good ones out there.
In particular, like The Fighter was a movie I thought for sure I was going to hate.
Great movie, yeah.
Especially after seeing Warrior, the UFC one, where Tom Hardy is a force of nature in that movie.
He is intense, yes. Is that why, Kenny? Oh, I did not know that there was another movie. And so
it's a horror movie.
Maybe they had to put Guy Ritchie's name in front of it for that reason.
Not only is it a terrible horror movie, it is a tween witchcraft dude witches warlocks where it's like Twilight for witches, but it's like all dudes. God, I hate that I fucking saw.
So did you see this one as well, or did you have a chance to see this one?
I never got a chance to go to see it because Halloween Horror Month happened and things got busy real fast for me.
No,
really, Carlito showed up for every one of those shows.
Right? What's up, Kevin? Yeah, Champ, old school, powerful for sure. Classic boxing movie. What I would say to you then is I feel like you might have missed a couple of fun movies later in his career, most recently, that you got something to look forward to. All right, you get to pick one now. Which one do you want to talk about?
So Guy Ritchie took some time away from his normal standard fare.
He did.
And he put out, and maybe I'm corny for this, the first Sherlock Holmes, I really enjoyed with Jude Law as the Watson.
Yeah,
Just a fun movie.
it's
Like,
a great movie.
turn your brain off and watch it entertaining. The
Yeah.
sequel,
No, I'm happy to
no.
talk about both at the same time because I think the
Yes.
sequel is almost entirely unforgettable and fails to cash in on all the quality that is here in the first movie. I know that it's not the traditional Sherlock performance and character. I know that they definitely went a Guy Ritchie-esque route with the bare knuckle boxing and the fight sequences, but I feel like they explain it really well in a way that makes me feel like it would make sense for Sherlock to have studied these things and to know these things. And I love this movie. I think it's a really good movie.
And I went in thinking I'd hate Jude Law in it.
Sure.
Because there's that weird point in time where Jude Law I wasn't feeling it.
We'll get to bad Jude Law performances later. It's coming.
He played a good Watson. Like, it wasn't one of because I had been watching Martin Freeman with Benedict Cumberbatch and Sherlock. Yeah. So we get to this and I'm like, you know what? Robert Downey Jr. is having a renaissance. I'll watch it. And then I found myself completely entertained in the fighting scenes where he's in his head before a punch is thrown.
He's breaking it all down, and
yeah. And I was like, Sherlock and Rachel McAdams is such a fun, like, romantic foil to him.
Yes, and Mark Strong is a great bad guy. So
Mark
creepy.
Strong, underrated character actor. Another one in British cinema who in Game of Thrones also he was. Ooh.
There's lots of great actors in this, and just a whole lot of fun. And it came at a time when we were on Sherlock overload. I mean, you had the Sherlock show on NBC, I think it was, or CBS that had
which was terrible with Johnny.
I liked it a lot. I like Johnny Lee Miller and Lucy Liu.
Johnny Lee Miller, yes.
And Lucy Liu. I like that. I loved, of course, the Benedict Cumberbatch one, which is a more traditional but modernized version. And then this was the only one that was like a timepiece of the period piece of the three.
But I will say, if you want to see something that's kind of like really, if you took The Wire and Sherlock Holmes and put them into one show, Luther.
Oh yeah, with
the first season,
Idris Elba.
Yeah, Idris Elba going after Spring Heel Jack, the serial killer. Luther is like what I needed as a Wire fan.
Sure.
To just watch
more Idris Elba.
Again, the dude is just so charismatic.
He captures the attention.
So Sherlock Holmes Game of Shadows, I was really looking forward to because Noomi Rapace was in it, who was in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
And I'm still shocked they've never gotten around to a third movie in this series. You got to think that second one at least made money because it was a big name and they cashed in on it. I can't believe it. Even Spider-Man 3 made more money than all the other Spider-Man movies. So
I feel like Robert Downey Jr. is someone who reads reviews. And maybe he probably was like, you know what? Like, it's probably not healthy for my career.
Mm-hmm.
Entropy is bringing up a lot of things because
I agree.
A lot of things
the whole production design and cinematography and lighting and set design all really just top notch, and it really made you feel like you were in it and that you could believe it and buy into it. And I love that the main plot device is like the invention of remote detonation, like remote control, like remote detonation is the big plot device. The idea that you could invent a remote trigger for something. Right. Everything else is in the era when it happened, but remote triggering is now the new thing. And I love the way that plays out.
And I love how Robert Downey Jr. is just constantly sabotaging Watson's relationship.
Right. And that's beautifully played out too. The way that, when he's got the like woman on the street that he's bribed, who's like,
yes,
you're going to marry someone. So good. But this was a very fun movie. I understand that it is not, again, a traditional Sherlock and Holmes kind of story, or Sherlock and Watson story. I get it, but it was incredibly entertaining for what it was for me.
I think they
and would rank pretty high, probably top 3 for me of Guy Ritchie's movies.
Comic has got a comment.
Proved I can watch Idris Elba do anything. Give him all the roles. So yeah, this one ranks really high. Don't watch the second one. I think it's entirely forgettable and wasteful, and you
I
don't
don't
need
think you need to watch the second one. You really
it. No,
don't.
no, you really don't. What is up, Cali Comics? How you doing, sir? Hope your Friday night's kicking off well.
Oh,
Kevin
yeah.
says I found it entertaining. It's the removal of the stereotypical idea for
Sherlock's a
Sherlock.
junkie.
Yeah, I think you do hear him in the books. Smoking the what is it the hookah pipes,
Yeah, it's the Asian
opium.
opium. Yes.
Yeah, and I like the concept that they played with here, and I don't know if it was a screenwriting choice or if it was a Downey Jr. acting choice of making Sherlock seem like he's got ADHD and autism, almost like Asperger's, autism. Like he can't focus in the
High-functioning
restaurant.
autistic.
Yeah, I mean, like the noises at the restaurant are triggering him, and all he's constantly taking in information so rapidly that he can't focus. And I thought that was very clever, and it felt very true to that character in a lot of ways. So I found that very interesting, that decision. What is up, Simon? Good to see you, man.
Hey.
Spidey. I hope you're doing well. So yeah, like I said, this would rank pretty high. I think this is top 3 for me, Guy Ritchie movies, maybe even top 2.
3 or 4 for me. So I gotta ask, like, what in your opinion was his biggest miss?
I mean, I know his like worst movie, but I don't think that's his biggest miss, because I think he takes a bigger cut at a topic that seems like right up his alley and whiffs, and that would be this one I want to talk about. I don't understand.
That was mine.
I don't understand this movie. I don't understand how this movie got made. I don't understand the screenplay. It's so bad. The writing is so bad, and it's such a muddled mess. And Hunnam and Law are horrible, and they cannot do anything to save their lives in this. So is it his worst movie? Probably not. We can talk
Hunnam's a terrible leading man
later.
He's a terrible leading man. Like,
maybe that's what it is.
He was terrible in Pacific Rim.
Sure.
Idris Elba carried that movie.
So for me, like this is the opportunity that seems right up his alley. Now, I did read about script dramas, and
there was a lot of issues
and false starts on this over and over again. And I think there were a lot of things plaguing this whole production.
They rewrote half the script on the fly.
Yeah, and they were combining older scripts that the studio still owned and wanted to use with the new stuff that Guy Ritchie wanted to do, and it ultimately just became a mess, a huge mess. It wasn't Sword in the Stone, and it wasn't Excalibur, and I don't know what it was. It wasn't the Knights in the Round Table. It was just a mess.
If you want to watch an entertaining King Arthur movie, well, I have 2 to name.
Okay.
Excalibur.
Yeah, great.
It's
very entertaining. Amazing.
But the Clive Owen one,
I have not seen that one. That's the one by I think it's the guy that did Training Day, the same director.
Yes.
Antoine Fuqua.
Antoine Fuqua. And maybe I have a weird crush on, like a man crush on Clive Owen, but Clive Owen's been in some movies where they're very good and no one talks about. Children of Men is one in particular.
Great movie.
No one talks about.
Great movie.
It's probably should be the peak of his acting reel. He is phenomenal in that movie. And then, of course, Shoot 'Em Up.
Yes.
It's one of the greatest bad movies ever, especially if you want to see Paul Giamatti basically playing Elmer Fudd.
Yeah, he's had an unusual career where he could have been the next Bond leading man kind of guy. And I think he eschewed a lot of that to make different kinds of movies, it seems like.
I think so. I think he was kind of one of those guys that Hollywood was trying to make happen.
Oh, Taylor Winder, you just went so high up in my praise. Ooh. The fact that people know the movie Croupier and drop it in my chat, that is a phenomenal movie. Absolutely great movie. I actually own it on DVD. Great.
I can tell you the movie
this is gonna. I love all you in the chat. This might be the comment of the night. I'm just glad that somebody knew the movie Croupier. Great, like oddball heist kind of movie, and unreliable narrator movie. Really good. Just really, really good.
So I think Clive Owen's career basically got ruined because of that movie with Natalie Portman and not Hugh
Closer.
Grant, Closer, Jude Law.
Yeah.
I think
Another
that
Jude
ruined
Law
his career.
misfire, right? Yeah.
Ooh,
Uh,
Last Night. Oh, Last Night was terrible.
what was the one? What was the one with like Connery and First Night with
First Night.
Connery and Richard Gere? My God. Oh my God.
Yeah, King
Uh,
Arthur movies have gone like every
oh,
different way that you could
and
go, but
I don't think there's
Excalibur.
ever been like an A+ version, and yet it gets remade again and again.
So my mother, bless her deceased soul, she used to love the musical Camelot
Sure.
with Richard Burton,
There you
and she knew every word to every song, so she would turn that on and
go.
be doing laundry in the house singing
That's funny.
Camelot, Camelot,
I love it.
every word. So like I have a very sweet spot for that movie.
Sure.
Like I don't ever want to watch it again, but like
But the second you do, you're gonna have all this mom nostalgia flowing
yeah,
over you,
because
right?
I hear the songs and I'm always like, oh,
I love it. I love it. This is a great comment, Kenny, and I'm sorry I didn't get back to it until now. But I agree. It's possible that once they cast Connery, and ultimately, I think actually, once they cast Downey Jr., I think Downey Jr. He was producing this with his production company, his wife, and I have a feeling he probably helped push the story in that direction or the character in that direction, and then maybe Guy Ritchie came later.
but Guy Ritchie loves flawed
Oh yeah,
main heroes though.
totally.
So because even Jason Statham's like a ridiculous gambler
Right.
and fucks up constantly. Oh, Richard Harris, sorry. You got me, Thunderhouse. Richard Harris.
Yeah.
Richard Burton was the one married
Thunderhouse
to
in the chat. What's going on?
Elizabeth Taylor, I think.
And then
One of the many husbands.
I would agree with this as well, Taylor, that Monty Python and the Holy Grail is the best one of the and then Excalibur being the second for me. If you want your King Arthur funny or you want your King Arthur serious, you got your two choices.
'Tis but a scratch.
Yeah, it's a
flesh wound.
All right, I'm glad we picked the same one as the biggest swing and a miss. Did you want to pick a different one next, or do you want me to pick? What do you want to do? Because we're starting to get into the ones that I haven't seen.
So I mean, Swept Away is a very easy.
Let's jump to that. I think this is going to always be his low water mark.
And this goes to the Blank Check movie.
Okay, he had his success with his British films. He's got Madonna, at the height of her, career. Now she wants to make another movie.
By the way, 2 years removed from Snatch, which was internationally
huge hit. Yeah, and he's
in the papers with Madonna constantly.
It was a foreign film that was very popular that they're going to remake. So they already have the script, and they roll into this absolute disaster.
Written and directed by.
Yeah, well, he wrote all of his movies that he's directed except two. The only movies of his he hasn't directed are the two Sherlock films.
And apparently he did not learn his lesson from the Sean Penn Madonna movies during the 80s.
Jeez. I mean, yeah.
Cali Comics, we have not touched Snatch
So yeah,
yet.
we've done most of his his later stuff. We'll get back to his early films in just a little bit. No, don't worry, brother. We got you still. We started with some of his more recent stuff. So if you want to hear about Covenant or The Gentleman or
I also feel they're universally loved, Snatch and Lock, Stock.
I think they are pretty popular among a certain time period of film goer. Like when I saw both in the theater and really enjoyed them. So
Aladdin was a misfire. I knew right away when Will Smith was cast.
You want to jump to that one? Okay, here we go.
Yeah, I feel since that's the most recent
misfire.
Well,
it was a big swing and a miss for sure for fans. Yeah. I have not seen it, so I am not gonna crap on it.
You're always going to be held against Robin Williams being the genie. You just are. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think Will Smith had a chance taking on that role. I think that's not. I think that's surprising that he even wanted to do it, knowing that he would be always compared to Robin that way.
But Naomi Scott, who I loved in the Power Rangers movie, I was like, okay, she's Princess Jasmine. They're having her be a little bit more action oriented.
Right.
I don't think he was the director to do this movie. I think him taking it on, more than likely he probably did it because his kids loved it.
I mean, yeah, make a Disney movie for your kids. Like, I get it.
So
How was
it's one
Jafar?
of
I don't
those
even remember who played Jafar.
Marwan Kenzari.
Okay, I don't know.
So they did for the most part hire actors from Bollywood cinema. So
Gotcha.
kudos to them for that, and good for him kind of reading the room of I'm gonna take shit no matter what I do.
Right.
So
Yeah, this is true. They talk about the opium that he does, right? For sure, he hits those opium dens for sure. This is also very true, Callie.
yeah.
So yeah, I do need to eventually watch this one, and I am not a hater of the Disney remaking their animated films live action. I loved the Cinderella remake. I thought that came out really, really well. I enjoyed the Beauty and the Beast remake with Emma Watson. I thought that was done really, really well. So I have not been a hater of these. I just, for whatever reason, I looked at the poster and I was like, I'll wait. I don't need to see this right away. The poster, it legitimately was a big turn away for me.
So looking through IMDb, there is a movie here that I didn't get to watch, but I kind of wish I had. Wrath of Man.
There it is. I got it right here. And this was one of his more recent ones. I'm sorry, I thought I loaded a better poster than that. That is really fuzzy. But I had not even heard of this movie, and I couldn't find it streaming anywhere at the time that I was going around last time looking for stuff. So I did not see this. But another classic Statham Guy Ritchie team up. Yes,
What
I also
interests
liked The Jungle Book. That was another really good one.
what interests me most, Jeffrey Donovan from Burn Notice is in this movie.
Really?
Yes, and when he shows up in weird movies of like as a character actor, and
Right.
that kind of, and Andy Garcia's in it.
Oh wow.
So there's like even Josh Hartnett is in this as a character actor. So
That's funny.
he's a weird. That's another actor who had a weird career. Like they
Yeah.
tried to push him as a leading man.
And then Pearl Harbor hit, and it was it was a disaster.
Honestly, I really think that ruined his career.
I think it did. I think it did a lot of damage to a lot of actors.
But in Oppenheimer, I didn't even realize it was him.
Oh, he's in Oppenheimer. I haven't seen that yet.
He was fantastic.
Nice.
To be honest, if
So you haven't
RDJ
seen this either, then? Neither of us have seen.
No.
Okay.
I just saw that it was on here on IMDb, and I was like, "How did I miss that?" Because Statham is right on the poster.
I do need to see it, and it was one of the only ones I haven't seen that I was most disappointed to have not seen yet. So it's on my list. Let's see. The others that I haven't seen, I have not seen Rock and Rolla.
So it was him aping his own earlier movies.
Right. It did seem in keeping with that. Gerard Butler taking over the Statham role.
Well, Idris Elba was in it. Gerard Butler,
really?
He's decent. It's just the script was bullshit.
Okay.
It was very weird. Mark Strong's in it too. Like Tom Hardy's in it. There is a who's who of British actors that are really good. And
sure, as he usually gets, right?
For some reason, it just did not work.
Huh. So it's not what I would call good.
Like comics, you should do a Guy Pearce episode of.
Maybe next year we do actors instead of directors. That could be a lot of fun. This year we were trying a director retrospective system,
but staying away from
that's not a bad idea.
But staying away from the big like foundation act directors, because everybody's done those.
So I haven't seen it. It sounds like there are some haters for it too, but I have yet to see it. Who's the female lead in this? Is that Tandy Newton?
Tandy Newton.
Tandy Newton. All right. So I would love to go see it at some point. I don't think it was streaming when I did my first watch through. The performances are over the top, he says.
Okay, it's only for rent on Amazon. Back when we did it 6 months ago, it was on Hulu.
Okay. Guy Pearce and Gary Oldman don't they are often unrecognized. I still remember seeing Gary Oldman in Hannibal and being like, that was a wild performance. So good.
So I have to ask you.
I hate the movie, but he is you can't stop watching him.
If you had to pick between Snatch or Lock, Stock, which is your favorite?
That's tricky. That's a great question. I'm probably going to go with Snatch. I think I like it better with the frenetic energy seems better contained. The performances seem a little tighter, and it seems he seems more willing to just let the actors do what
the
they
writing
want.
was better, in my opinion, and
Okay,
Brad
well,
Pitt
let's jump to that then. Let me rotate him
yeah.
up. Sorry. Go ahead.
Brad Pitt and oh my god,
Statham and
well, no, in particular, the Spanish actor, fuck.
oh, right here next to me.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not saying it. From Traffic and
yes,
and Sicario and Usual Suspects.
Benicio del Toro.
There it
as
is.
Frankie Four Fingers.
There it is.
It's one of those character actors where he disappears to the point where he couldn't remember.
There it is. Everybody's like, I got you guys.
He's fantastic in this movie. Dennis Farina, of course, is in it.
Always great. Yeah.
There's I had posted 6 months ago, of course.
Vinnie Jones.
Lenny James. Lenny James is in this.
Lenny James, okay.
Yes. Another character actor. But there is
Callie's quoting it. Well, what caravan car? It's got no wheels. You like the eggs? You like the eggs? So good.
There is this old British actor in there, and he gives this speech on Nemesis. I posted months ago when we were first doing this.
Right.
Where he's like, you know what that means? I'm a proper cunt. That's what being a Nemesis means.
Yeah.
Alan Ford is Bricktop.
Yeah. This one is definitely also in that top 3 for me for Guy Ritchie movies. It's hard for me to separate Guy Ritchie from this. It feels just like him. So this and Sherlock, and then what the third movie is probably going to be Covenant. This is just so different, but yeah, this one's a lot of fun. It's a roller coaster ride.
This got him Juggernaut.
Yes, right.
Well,
this and in Lock, Stock, he has great roles in both.
The part with he's like, you made me curse in front of my son to start
him and his
the
kid. Yeah, the stuff with him and his kid in Lock, Stock, so great.
Lock, Stock, the thing I love,
best movie.
The thing I love about Lock, Stock is the guys are lovable losers.
Yes.
They mess up everything.
Well, and there's a great performance from Sting.
Yes, and rewatching it.
I'm sorry, we're supposed to be talking about Snatch, but we're talking about Lock, Stock.
They're kind of one and the same. They are.
It's 1A and 1B, right?
So I started thinking about Rounders watching this, which is another movie, except without the power of John Malkovich with.
Oh man, his
I'm
Russian
playing with your money.
The Russian, yeah,
with the Oreos.
Right. Let me double check here on my list. Lock, Stock was 98 and Snatch was 2000.
So I remember Lock, Stock. I had to wait for the longest time for Blockbuster to get this in to rent.
Right.
Because I remember, I read a lot of the film magazines and they're like, there's this movie and this director coming out. So it started me, I got to see this. Same thing with Danny Boyle. That was another one where I was like, okay, I got to start tracking this guy's movies. And it was like a British invasion, but for film for a while, where all these directors started coming out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they weren't easy to find. And as much as we might bag on Tarantino a lot, there was a Tarantino effect.
That immediately, preceding Pulp Fiction, there was this flood of films that were in that vein of.
Well, Richard Linklater in particular was the one who influenced Kevin Smith.
Right, on the dramedy side, but on the quirky crime side, I think certainly Reservoir Dogs may have started people thinking, but Pulp Fiction was like the floodgates were opened, and then what came out were films like Lock, Stock, or like I mentioned, 2 Days in the Valley felt very much in keeping with that,
and also like you can't undersell Robert Rodriguez and
right,
his book about.
Or was it Doug Liman with Go?
Doug Liman was another one, but like Robert Rodriguez, him documenting what he did to make that movie, giving blood and
right, yeah, for sure,
putting himself up for scientific.
But as far as these quirky crime dramas where like lots of characters and intersecting plots, and Boondock Saints was also that.
That was another one, and that documentary about the making of Boondock Saints, where you instantly hate the director because he's a fucking lunatic.
So yeah, I think these films got saddled with the like their Quentin Tarantino light or Quentin Tarantino askew or whatever is fair, but at the same time, I think they offer something that's just as much fun for me, you know, as some of those early Quentin movies. I really do think Snatch is worthy of being put with those other movies.
I think it made people think that they could do it, and that was the important thing. Because there was a lot of guys who were like, well, fuck, like, all right, this guy worked at Blockbuster and made this movie.
Right.
And, you know, Kevin Smith worked at again, Kevin Smith, I know kind of is a mockery of himself.
Well, sure.
But
he's a success story.
Yeah, this was a guy working at a convenience store who made a movie and took out a bunch of credit cards and for $30,000
right,
made this movie. And I think we can't undersell the effect of some of these directors and creators because they influenced, you know, 100 other people.
Oh, totally.
I mean, honestly, I would say without Ridley Scott and Michael Mann, we'd never have Fincher.
I think that the ripple effect of art is always like that, where you have talented people who create something that resonates, and then the others who follow after, right, in the same way. I never liked Tarantino light. Is more where that's at. Okay, I respect you. Good to see you, Joel. How you doing, brother? So in this case, I think this is he came up in that Quentin Tarantino generation, and so guys like him and Matthew Vaughn obviously were putting their own print on that genre. If you want to have quirky crime comedy drama, you know.
Yeah,
genre.
And Matthew Vaughn, I still say, like, for coming out of the shadow of, you know, a guy he was DPing for,
right.
And then going,
he was a producer, and yeah, and then all of a sudden now he was like making his own movies, and you know, Layer Cake, and we mentioned X-Men and
First Class, the
Kingsman,
Kick-Ass movies,
Kick-Ass. Yeah, I think in a lot of ways that they've both kind of exploded now. You know.
Oh,
what is up, Robert?
Man.
Good to see you, Robert. I hope you're doing well, sir.
I love seeing your videos digging in Tampa with all the guys.
Yes, absolutely.
Shame I didn't live in that area.
So should we throw in Lock, Stock then at the same time here and get
Lock, Stock, it's him kind of figuring out what he's doing.
Sure.
Vinnie Jones, I would almost say, is one of the main stars of this movie, and he is one of the most uncharismatic actors, but there's something about him. Right. Which is why I put Carlito as him when I did the trailer.
Yes, right. What is up? Shop for Comics is in the chat. John Doom says, "Hey, how you doing? Thank you for coming by. I'm going to unbox something from Shop tomorrow morning on the morning show. So be there if you want to see. I got a ton of things to unbox tomorrow morning from Comics Curing Cancer Week."
Lock, Stock was his first movie, so
right. It was an incredibly low budget film, right? I think getting Sting to star in it, be in it, I think gave them a huge bit of budgeting that they probably would not have gotten otherwise. A lot of these guys, you know, Statham and Vinnie Jones are known now, but they were not names when this movie was made. So at the time, they were basically cashing in on Sting and then making this quirky, odd movie where the budget was spent on stunts and action. You know, they spent all their money on, you know, squibs and, you know, prop guns and all that kind of stuff because they wanted action, you know.
So like the original Halloween, most of the budget went to getting the Steadicam,
right?
Because they wanted it to look good,
right?
And then 33,000 of it went to Donald Pleasance for 2 days of work. That's all he filmed. 2 days. That's all they could afford.
He everything he did in the movie he did in 2 days.
Yes.
Wow, I have not heard that before.
And the only reason
a ton.
The only reason why he even agreed to be in the movie was because his daughter liked the score for Assault on Precinct 13.
That's hilarious.
And apparently he had 7 kids that he needed to support.
So I don't love Lock, Stock. I think it's fun. and I get that Snatch is the superior film,
It
but
has a place in time.
I have a ton of respect for what they did, given the budget and challenges they probably had day to day making this as a real independent film at that time. So really, I think it's an impressive achievement that earned him the chance to do Snatch and prove it wasn't a one and done kind of thing.
Well,
Although
also
that then
Brad
led
Pitt becoming a fan of you after
right,
Lock, Stock, and going, I'm gonna be
right.
immediately you get Brad Pitt in your movie, all of a sudden they're like,
Well, he followed this with Rock and Rolla and
yeah.
Revolver and Snatch, and it was like a quartet of quirky crime, violent stuff. And I think immediately came out of that rush of like, no, I don't have to make the same movie over and over again. I'm going to try stuff. And of course, that led to the roller coaster he kind of went on,
Yes.
where it was like sometimes you'd have a hit, sometimes you'd have a fail. But ultimately, these first two films, Snatch and Lock, Stock, gave him a language, a cinematic language for people knew when they went to go see his movies. This is what you were going to get, most likely, right?
And had you told me Jason Statham was going to end up becoming an action star, I would have laughed in your face back then.
Right. Well, it wasn't, I don't know how much longer after Snatch that he got Transporter and kind of became this whole other guy.
He did Ghosts of Mars.
Well, sure. But I was trying to guess between Snatch and Transporter.
Transporter was 4 years later.
You think it was 2004?
It was pretty close in that area, and then there was Transporter 2 because Transporter 1 made money, and then it was the Fast movies.
I mean, I love the first Transporter movie. I think it's hilarious. I think it's really good. I just wasn't sure what year. What's that?
And then Crank came out, and Crank 2.
Transporter was 2002, so 2 years after Snatch, he made Transporter. And I think by then he was like a name, and then it's like, he's making the remake of Italian Job and all these
Italian Job, yeah, that was another one that with Wahlberg. He was actually in like a bunch of big actors.
Let me double check. Italian Job was in 2003, so right after Transporter. Yeah.
Carlito loved that movie.
I totally forgot this, but now just looking at his list of movies, I forgot he has that cameo at the beginning of Collateral when Tom Cruise is walking off of the plane into LA. He gets his folder of information from Jason Statham in the airport. He's walking right by him.
Collateral, such a good movie. The Mechanic, that was another one.
The Mechanic.
Jet Li.
Yeah. Or Crank. If you want to see some wild Jason Statham movies, man, those Crank movies are buck wild.
And you also
not appropriate for kids, obviously.
Here's a funny fact. They originally wrote that movie for Nick Cage and they couldn't afford him.
Hey, Jason Statham is not a step down. That's a sideways, not a lateral.
They joked about redoing both movies with Nick Cage. Now they have
just take the same script and just do it again. Yep. That's funny.
Oh, that worked well for Psycho. The one.
Yes. I'm a Statham fan. I think he's much like The Rock. He's got a style and a kind of character he plays, but when he's in his groove, he's hard to beat.
Yep, Neville Dean Taylor, who did Crank.
There it was. Oh, you went to college with him? That's awesome.
They were on How Did This Get Made, talking with Paul Scheer about making those movies.
That's funny.
Oh,
Handsome Rob. Yep. They got Cage for Ghost Rider 2, though.
Yeah, but that wasn't the same. Like him having sex on a racetrack, a horse racetrack. That'd be a whole other level.
So crazy. Well, that leaves a couple more that I have not seen. No, one more. Two more. Sorry, yeah. So I don't remember
Revolver.
I saw Revolver. I do not remember it, and I'm trying to find the thing for it. My eyesight. Oh, there it is. I don't remember this. Do you? I mean, it's got Ray Liotta. I just don't remember it.
I don't even see that on my list.
Revolver doesn't show up. That's funny.
Oh, okay, that's Revolver. Okay,
and then I never saw Operation Fortune, which was a more recent one as well. I never saw those two. So those two,
which I can't. Because Aubrey Plaza's in it, and I didn't see it.
Right. I love Aubrey Plaza.
Carrie Elwes, Josh Hartnett, Hugh Grant.
Yeah, and of course Statham, and now Hugh Grant is a regular. The Revolver is the one where Storm
is
is number one on their list. That's a good Instagram joke right there. So if you haven't seen those, then I guess we're kind of done, right?
So here's we're gonna fulfill a promise here.
Oh yeah.
So
let me fix my banner. Go ahead.
We had a promise from Mr. Carlito that he would be here, and we also had a promise that if he did not show up for his own episode, that we were going to do the ultimate fuck you to him. And now we're going to talk Christopher Nolan movies.
We're not gonna probably spend as much time as we just did with Guy Ritchie movies. We went through every one of Guy's movies that we had at least seen and spoke a little bit about them. There's obviously a handful that I still haven't. But our guy, Carlito, is the biggest Christopher Nolan fan I know. And to punish him for, backing out on this and making us watch Guy Ritchie movies and not showing up, we're going to talk about his guy for a little bit. So let's start with this question that's going to eat his goat the most for me. What is Christopher Nolan's worst movie? Do you have an answer for that one? I got to bring up his list to make sure that my answer.
Because I know which one I like the least.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
All right, let me get to his filmography here. I wasn't fully ready for this.
I'm going to expose myself right now and say...
Yeah, I know which one.
That is my least favorite. No, Thunder.
Interstellar is my number one best. I will say, and my brother is in the same boat, and I know a ton of people
for me.
that feel so passionate about Interstellar. It means a ton emotionally, and a father-daughter story or whatever. There's two reasons why it's not for me, but we can get into that in a little bit. Is that what you want to start with first, though?
That's my worst.
That's your worst.
Yeah, because that horrible crying scene I hate it.
When he's looking at his daughter grow up?
Yeah, where he's doing, it's just McConaughey crying, and it just...
Oh, I love that scene. I got that.
For me, it did not work.
Here's the two reasons why that movie doesn't work for me. Number one is I can't stand Matt Damon's performance, and I don't think he's good in the movie, and I don't think that character is needed in the movie.
Yeah,
I think
he's great in The Martian.
That whole sequence of the movie is a waste, and I'll get to you in a second backstage. I see you there. The other reason I struggle with Interstellar is that they basically act like that guy had one kid. They not many people, when they think about Interstellar, remember that he had a son. The whole plot line with his son is thrown out. Like, he doesn't care about his kid. He doesn't go look back on his kid. I feel like the son story is lost, and it feels like a writer flaw that they don't give the father-son story the same intensity that they give the father-daughter story. This is a movie where they're like, hey, no, parents don't have favorites. Bullshit. Christopher Nolan's characters have favorites. Matthew McConaughey had a favorite. He liked his daughter way more than his son. Hardcore. But we got a guest. We got somebody else who's here. We know Carlito couldn't show up. We knew that. We knew that going in.
Please tell me it's Fire Guy Ryan.
We got the bearded comic book himself. What
I heard we were saying Carlito. So
good to see you, sir.
I'm
going to change our background because it shouldn't say Christopher Nolan, Guy Ritchie movies. I'm going to pick something kind of plain. For you, Greg, here's what we got. A little Batman for you in the background there, my man.
Did you finish the season?
We're talking Nolan.
Did I what?
Finish the season of Lost, or you?
No. I think we ended like episode 5, and so we just realized it's 11:38 our time. That if we try another episode, that Stacy would fall asleep, and
instead it's time for Greg to get on the internet and do YouTube.
And she's passed out on the couch there shouting, "We should watch more Lost."
That's my girl, Stacy. I appreciate you.
And since Greg just jumped on, I just want to say, watch out for his channel. He is interviewing one of mine and Jen's favorite people, Mr. Rodney Barnes, one of the most interesting people you can talk to.
Oh, I've interviewed him. It's done. It is done.
Well, no, I know you did it, but it's coming.
It's coming. Yes.
Yeah.
And
okay, so
he's now writing the Longest Yard remake
of the remake.
Yeah.
So, Greg, we're not going to make you talk Guy Ritchie. We're going to leave that on the bench where we finished with it. But I just proposed a question to Dan here about Christopher Nolan, asking what is his worst movie for you, the one that you just feel like, and a lot of people would put all of his movies in high regard, meaning the worst might not be a bad movie, but it would just be for you your personal least favorite. Because Dan said Interstellar.
Okay.
And I know I put up the Batman background. I'm gonna pick Dark Knight Rises as my least favorite one of his movies.
It's down there.
I do think it does not do well, and I do think it suffers from
too much
bad screenplay with bad plot devices and bad
we're talking just from a
screenwriting.
director standpoint, right?
Yeah,
I'm just talking from a film standpoint. Like, I'm not asking you to,
he's directed.
Yeah, you pick the movies he's directed, and which one is your least favorite? For me, it's Rises, and I don't hate Rises. I still own the movie.
Yeah,
but I have huge problems with the stupid bomb plot device that just drives me freaking crazy. The whole bomb plot device is a disaster for me.
But yet, I love Tom Hardy's Bane. There's something
you didn't need it. If that movie had been about Bane taking over the city and controlling it and leading like battles on the ground, and then Batman leading an army to take the city back and having a fight, and that's the whole movie, like you take my money. I want that movie.
If they had done a No Man's Land kind of thing with him,
stupid.
I mean, that is the epitome. I mean, and up until probably Black Panther, that's the epitome of a director going with a vision for a trilogy that then had to shift,
make changes. Sure.
And so, I probably am a little more forgiving because A, it's Batman, and B, it's that storyline wasn't what he wanted. However, I probably would I would still probably say Dark Knight Rises. I probably agree with you because I like it. I like it a lot. And I also have not seen Tenet, and I have not seen
Oppenheimer.
So
that's the only one I haven't seen is Oppenheimer.
So
although I never saw his indie film, black and white film called Following. I've never seen that either.
Okay, then
I mean, it exists. That's all. I'm just saying it exists.
You're right, because I guess that was technically before Memento.
Correct.
There's parts of Rises I really like, and then there's parts that just don't work. The Talia thing just should not have been in there at all.
Here's my, and I think Greg and I have talked about the, losing Heath Ledger issue. I think he could have gone to the studio and said, "We need to delay. Yeah, and I want to rewrite this, and I want to go in a different way, and I need to take time to think it through." He chose not to, and I think that's why the film suffers. Yeah. I think he should have. Knowing how successful the first two films were, knowing that Heath Ledger died and got this Oscar win, and it was this huge thing, they had cachet to sit on for another year, and they could have pushed that movie back, and no one would have questioned it, and it would have had same popularity and everything. Yeah, so I think they should have made that choice.
Yeah, he did Inception between Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, so like they literally had time.
Totally. I just think he felt that he felt good enough with his idea, and I think he should have taken more time.
And I think because of that, I feel like they had to rush the storyline. I feel like they had to rush in adding the Nightfall aspect of Bane into that. It provides a lot more holes and flaws in the movie that didn't need to be there. Like there is no point that at one point in the movie in Dark Knight Rises where Bane literally travels with Bruce Wayne after he breaks his back to drop him off in that facility.
And then he could have done that in the Batcave. It would have been just as interesting.
Right. But
plunk him down in the Batcave and he's got to climb his way out.
So like there's moments like that where it's like you're literally traveling 12 hours on a plane and so there were moments like that where it felt like they had to adjust the script that if they had more time they would have picked up on some of those little nitpicky things. Sure. Again, I'm saying this as someone I really like it, and I think overall
I own it. And I'm willing to say
I can't use own it as a justification.
You own all the Batman, anything Batman.
Oh heck yeah!
There's some comments here. Some people agreeing that that's their least favorite. I love. We got Station. What is up? One collection down in the chat. He's saying Prestige is his favorite. We'll get to favorites here in a second. I appreciate that. I love this. Casey Affleck is so great in it, although, and the favoritism is a big deal. They're talking about Interstellar. Love it. Funny. Love the idea, John, and having it end with Batman's back being broken would have been a great cliffhanger. There you go. Very intense. So Following apparently is a good indie student film. I've heard really good things about it. I just have never gotten around to seeing it. And I would be down for a Jogo Nightwing movie.
No,
I'm down.
You know what? I would be, just from the aspect of, I think he could have I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt could do the charisma of Nightwing, of Dick Grayson, that you have with the kind of the quick wit.
Right.
Because you see that a lot, especially if you're in Nightwing, but if you're just going off the Tom Taylor run even right now, like that is a very Joseph Gordon-Levitt character.
I guess it depends on the time jump also of like introducing
him. For sure.
But obviously they're not setting up a Nightwing. They were setting up a Batman takeover, a new Batman.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think it would have worked better if they would have maybe tied into the storyline a little bit more of.
But obviously they wanted to put a punctuation mark at the end of their trilogy.
Listen, I would have lost my shit if they introduced a John Paul Valley. I would have been like,
I would have.
See, I think they rushed that storyline if they wanted to tell that, because I think they needed to have that almost is a 4-movie storyline now at that point. Have him break his back in the 3rd movie, have Joseph Gordon-Levitt kind of start to be a part of that scene.
Right.
And then the 4th movie, you have a Jean Paul Valley coming into the equation. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character as a Robin, kind of like, hey, let's pump the brakes here a little bit.
Yeah.
You can go over the top. But I think that's the problem we get sometimes with comic book movies. We throw in, we gotta have the scene where all Superman dies by Doomsday. We've got to have where Batman's back gets broken. And you forget, I mean, I'm saying this as someone who literally just read Batman Nightfall. I'm on halfway through volume 2 still. It was a 3-year ordeal basically to get to even the part where they broke his back. Like
starting with Sword of Azrael, even introducing that character, and then that kind of started with then the Bane one-shot. And then you kind of just work your way through, and by the time he gets to actual Gotham, I still think Dark Knight might have had the biggest misfire. I think they should have saved Harvey for the 3rd movie and just ended with Joker.
I think in general, comic movies suffer from killing their villains, and I think that's a general.
I've always said that I felt they rushed. I feel like they rushed the Two-Face. I'm not necessarily the Harvey. They rushed the Two-Face aspect.
Well, they should have left him in the hospital.
Or left him as Harvey in the 2nd one, and then bring in Two-Face in the 3rd. I agree 100%. I feel like they rushed that.
And they still could have had some of the same endings with Joker saying, no, he was I bet on Harvey. I bet on him.
Because that would have been.
You don't know what I've done, what I've created. And then you hint at the fact that in the future, this is going to be the real problem in Gotham is now.
It would have been a great post-credit.
Yeah,
it would have been a great post-credit. And I think that's the thing that bothers me about Dark Knight. It's the one flaw. Is the end with Harvey. Yeah.
So let's flip that script question then. What is Christopher Nolan's best movie for you? Which is the movie of his list that you're like, this is the one that is the one for me? And there's a lot. I know he's got some really top flight movies. I struggle for me, and mine is pretty well known among you guys. I struggle to get anything that I feel is as rewatchable and enjoyable and ticks all the boxes for me, like Memento. Like
Memento is a good one.
I just can't. Nothing beats Memento as much as I love. And I know people in the chat mentioned Prestige, which ranks really high for me. It's like a top 3 for me.
It's a great go back and watch because you miss stuff every time you watch.
Totally.
Even when we started watching it on the last rewatch with Carlito, where we're like, oh my god, it follows the whole act of the magic trick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They tell you the stages of the magic trick, and then the movie does the stages of the magic trick. It's really great.
I mean, a lot of his movies are rewatchable like that.
Totally. So
I think the most two rewatchable movies for me where I'm like, I'm going to pick up something I missed is probably Prestige and Memento. And I think Memento for me is my first love with Christopher Nolan.
Guy Pearce is awesome in that movie.
Guy Pearce is awesome.
Carrie-Anne Moss.
And what's his the other dude from the Matrix?
Joe Pantoliano.
Yep. Joey Pants.
Because it was such a unique way to tell a story.
Yeah.
That you hadn't seen done as much. Like it pushed the envelope as a filmmaker. And I think that's why it takes the stage for me that I like it more than Prestige. If I'm recommending a movie to a casual person, like, oh, here's a movie you should watch, I'd probably recommend Prestige over Memento.
Sure.
Because it's a more like, I don't want to like, it sounds bad.
It's a tighter movie.
It's
I think
tighter. It's more of a, but it's more open to a blockbuster, like
it's accessible
to a casual fan.
Right. Yeah. Accessible for sure.
Yeah.
And so for me, I saw Memento. It came out at the right time for me. I was in film school and I was trying to see as many indies as possible. And the reviewer that wrote this glowing review for it, I really respected. And I skipped a class in the morning and went straight to the indie theater, like midday matinee when nobody was there on a Friday. And I saw the movie. I called my wife after. I was like, we're going to the movies tonight. I'm going to take it. So I went again that night and took her. We loved it so much. We called her parents and we took them to see it on either Saturday or Sunday. So I saw it 3 times opening weekend. Since then, of course, I've seen it a ton. I even have the DVD version, which includes a psych test. You can take a psych test in the special edition. And if you answer the questions correctly, it plays the movie chronologically for you. It'll unedit the movie. It's not that version.
Okay.
The one that I've got, it looks like a psych file. Like it even has like paper clips and it looks blue with like you pull the file pages out. It's buck wild. But I even had to download off the internet like the cheat code to play it in the. But if you answer the psych questions in a certain order, it allows you then to play the movie chronologically. And I'll tell you, it's still really interesting in chronological order.
Sorry, I'm laughing because Stacy just texted me. She's like, "Oh my gosh, such and such is so and so." She's still processing.
She's processing Lost. I love it.
And how we ended. And so she's now talking to me of going, "Oh my gosh, that's who that is." And I'm just like sitting here because like I can't.
Season 5 is great on that show because it's the time travel season, and so you get up the first like half of the season is bipping around in time, and you're filling in the blanks.
Right. When Hurley's gonna write Empire Strikes Back.
So we just watched it's I think it's episode 5 is what we actually ended on. But it's where they're skipping where Locke tries to go down to the orchard.
He gets shot in the leg and needs to have the bullet taken out.
No, that happened already. It's where he falls where there's a flash.
And he's got to turn the donkey wheel.
He breaks his leg. And Charlotte dies in that with Daniel Faraday and all of that stuff. So it's funny because she's texting. Sorry, back to
I love it. No, I'm just
laughing.
It's my favorite. I think it's my favorite season of that show in the end because it's just so meta. The whole thing.
We'll find out.
Yeah, Memento ranks highest for me. Dan, is there one that ranks highest for you?
So Memento is pretty damn high. The Prestige is very high. I have Inception probably is my number 3-ish. But even for my Batman rankings, I had Batman Begins before Dark Knight because if Batman Begins flopped, we never get Dark Knight.
Right.
And Batman Begins is solid.
It's compared a really to what we had. Script. Yeah, it's got a great climactic ending sequence when he battles Ra's in the train and the whole sequence with like
Michael
Narrows going wild.
Michael Caine is so big in this series, and Michael Caine is a character actor.
Yeah,
I love. The underrated movie for me would be Insomnia.
Oh, so wait. Did we do favorites for Greg, and then we'll do underrated?
I'm still at. I think my favorite is Memento.
Okay.
And probably Prestige is up there. Inception is like, here's the other aspect. I haven't probably rewatched a lot of Christopher Nolan movies besides the Batman trilogy for a while. So it would probably adjust and change as it goes on.
Right.
But I watched literally 12 different Guy Ritchie movies for the show that was supposed to happen a year ago.
Yeah.
And that
I
paid
didn't
off
even get to
really
talk
well
about
for
it.
you. You got to really spend time talking about these movies.
I didn't even get to process it. And so now one day I'm like, oh yeah, let's talk
I'll give you like 60 seconds at the end.
I don't even want it now. I don't even want it now. I'm freaking watching
So
Aladdin and King Arthur just to play catch up. I'm a completionist.
That movie is so bad, that King Arthur movie. We both agreed it's his biggest swing and a miss. It's not his worst movie, just his best opportunity that clearly got blown.
I would say
Charlie,
Inception.
What did you want to say about
Inception was my most rewatchable because there's always something new I notice every viewing.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of shit just hidden or little gestures that make you rethink the ending, because much like John Carpenter's The Thing, the ending's open to interpretation, which I love. And I famously was on a date watching Inception, and my date started going off about the ending of The Thing and how fucking useless it was, and that was the last time we went out because we got in an argument.
Have a second date with that person right there. Done.
You don't need that negativity in your life. You're like, nope, done.
But you did raise that question, Dan, of the Nolan movie that is most underrated or maybe most ignored, underappreciated. What were you going to say on that?
Insomnia.
Sure.
Al Pacino versus Robin Williams.
Yep.
That's because that's
with
where
Hilary Swank.
Hilary Swank.
But Robin Williams really was that before 1 Hour Photo, or it was
right around the same time, within like a year or two.
I'm doing Death to Smoochie. I'm doing
Oh, Death to Smoochie was another one.
Insomnia. Right. He's like, I'm going outside my token role.
Yeah,
man, that was a good one.
Yeah, that was like dark, and then him against Pacino, where it was the same levels.
Year. It was the same year as Death to Smoochie and 1 Hour Photo.
Okay, I knew it was like really tight, where he just did like those three pretty close to like, hey, and I liked all three.
Right.
Death to Smoochie is my most rewatchable.
Well, Insomnia is a great pick. And I don't know if either of you have seen the Stellan Skarsgård original version, because Insomnia is a remake of I think is he Swedish? It's a Swedish film, right? But it is nearly identical.
Okay.
And Skarsgård plays the Pacino role, and I don't think I knew any of the other actors in it, but it's super similar, like really close visually and aesthetically. I think Nolan took a different route with it, but the plot and the scenes are almost the same. No, Death to Smoochie is not
Christopher Nolan.
No. No.
It is
watching you. Jim, I'm watching you, buddy. I'm watching you.
Keep it in.
I will. This is the nicest thing I'll say to Carlito here, and I'm glad there's only one person watching us right now. I would pick Tenet as his most underrated movie, because I do think it's a movie that people like. Nobody watched, nobody liked. Everybody says it's confusing and they don't understand what's going on. I've been rewatching it, and I it's like
technically great movie, film wise and filmmaking. It came out during COVID, so
bad timing.
Also, like, it's a movie, if you don't watch in a theater where you're completely focused,
right,
it's a shit movie because you have to be paying attention to everything going on. So at home watching was terrible.
You've mentioned that like his movies, when you rewatch them, have a great rewatchability factor. And I think this is one of those. And I feel like the more I've watched Tenet, the more I feel like I get little things. And there's a ton of conspiracy theories about it. Like
it ties into Inception.
Is Robert Pattinson the son that they're saving at the end of the movie? Is it connected to his other films in some ways? There's a lot of like theories about it, but I think
there's a whole theory that it's one of the kids, Cobb's kids from Inception.
Even without those things, I think it's still a real tightly wound espionage movie that has some really great twists and works. I think it works really, really well. I will also say it is one of his most emotionless movies, and he is an emotionless filmmaker. And I will saddle him with that. And I know people are like, he is not emotionless.
Oh, you're going to love
eyes out
Oppenheimer,
in Interstellar. His movies are oftentimes, he pulls back when an emotional sequence hits. Now, Interstellar is an example of where he really like leaned into it a little bit. But most of his movies, he backs away when the emotions kind of hit. And I think that's where his movies suffer a little bit. So I do think it's fair to like brand him that way, because I think a lot of times his movies are very like clever and they have a lot of great plot devices, but maybe don't hit on an emotional level the same way they hit on an intellectual level.
Well, and I mean, I hopped in even when you were talking about Interstellar. I think that's why there's a little bit of a miss with Interstellar of the dynamic of the dad and daughter. I think there is a little bit of this
there's a disconnect. Yeah, there
definitely
is
understanding human emotions of like, you know, because you don't have a favorite, but but whatever. Fun fact, just because Beta Ray Jim made me think of it. Do you actually? It wasn't Christopher Nolan, Jim, but do you guys know who did direct Death to Smoochy? I had to look it up.
Was that Edward Norton?
No, Edward Norton was in it, but it wasn't.
I thought Edward might have directed. It was an actor, though, right? Wasn't it an actor?
Mm-hmm. Here's your hint. It was an actor.
It's Danny DeVito.
There it is.
Yes.
I almost said Robert De Niro for some reason.
I was about to give you. We've been talking about Batman. I was going to say it was a Batman. Someone who's been prominent in a Batman movie. Boom.
I feel good about that answer. I feel good.
Danny DeVito.
I went Norton, but I'm glad. Okay, I feel better about it. One movie of his we haven't even mentioned that I really like that I think is always middled with his other movies. Dunkirk, I think, is a really
great.
Tight movie, really well done.
Fantastic.
Yeah, the sounds are really great, and the performances are great, and the intensity. Oh my god, I think it's his most tense movie, where you're just feeling the pressure of the clock and but
it doesn't have
the tragedy of the scenario. What's that?
I think because it doesn't have the fantasy, it doesn't clock with a lot of people because
it's not a genre film. So in that way, I think it's definitely not a typical nerd. Like you don't have an endpoint. Like there's no science fiction level.
But I think you also have. I think period pieces are tougher.
Yeah.
When it's a war, I'm not the biggest war movie fan in and of itself. So I think to try and breach the general population, like that's a tougher one. Yes, Danny DeVito. Yes, Danny DeVito did.
He did a great job. He was also the pilot in the movie, if you notice. And he's hard because he wears the mask the whole time.
Christopher Nolan Sunny in Dunkirk.
Christopher Nolan actually plays the dad in Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
It's Always Sunny in Dunkirk. I would love that episode. But I just wanted to mention it because I do think it's not fair that the movie gets like lost amongst. I mean, it's because he's got so many great movies.
Nominated like Best Picture still, so I don't know if it gets.
It didn't get Best Picture.
No. I mean, I think
it had for like sound and everything else.
I just think when people go and list like their favorite movies of his or talk about his movies, oftentimes it's the movie that is not mentioned. And because it's not his best or worst, it's somewhere in the middle. I think it just gets.
Tom Hardy's basically wearing the breather the whole time, so he's acting through his eyes for most of it.
Man,
he's basically Bane again, right?
For Best Picture,
was it?
Yeah, get out of here! Coming at me with my Oscar trivia.
Nobody knew who I was before I flew the plane.
I mean, him with the jock strap on his face, talking to his dog as Bane was probably one of the best things.
All right. Well, that was pretty much all I wanted to cover. For
embrace the darkness,
I was born in the dark.
So he's had two movies. He's had two movies that have been nominated for Best Picture. Can you name the two? I gave you Dunkirk. What's the second for an Oscar?
I feel like it would have been Interstellar.
Dan says Interstellar. What do you say, John?
It couldn't have been Oppenheimer because that's just come out this year. So
that'll be but Oppenheimer will have Robert Downey Jr.
I'm going to look at his list of movies, but I'm not going to click on. I got to remind myself what his movies were.
Okay.
But Oppenheimer has the complete emotionally divorced person in it who has kids and actually handed them off to someone else saying, "I can't deal with this."
Was it Dark Knight?
It was Inception.
Okay.
But it was for
Inception are
best
two
film.
best pictures. Yep.
Oh,
I didn't realize Inception was nominated
Inception
for
I
and
figured for
Dunkirk.
effects, definitely it would have.
Well, he got best
that. He'll
directing.
get the
for-
Oppenheimer nod this year.
He got
I'm
best
fairly sure.
directing for Dunkirk or nominee for Dunkirk, and then but
Okay.
Inception was best writing and best motion picture.
Oh wow, impressive.
Yeah.
Did he lose the pet to Zero Dark 30 that year?
Who was 2010 then? Let's go down this rabbit hole. I'm here for it.
So am I supposed to look this up?
No, I'm looking it up. It's
Okay,
fine.
you guys got it. I'll just sit here and tease Carlito. It's been great talking Christopher Nolan movies. I'm sorry you couldn't be here. Just didn't work out. Maybe next time.
That Catherine Bigelow one.
So that was the
Hurt
Zero
Locker.
Dark-
So it would have
the
been
Hurt Locker. Okay.
Hurt Locker. Did Hurt Locker win it all too, right?
It won, yeah, picture, director, and
So the
actor.
best part of it was in that year.
Did
was
Renner?
James Cameron started getting out of his seat, thinking he was getting the award for.
I think
Avatar.
Renner lost. Actually, Renner didn't win Best Actor.
No.
Who won?
It would have been best actor was
Jeff Bridges,
Was that True Heart?
Crazy Heart.
Crazy Heart,
Crazy Heart. Sorry.
Yep.
Christopher Waltz for Inglorious Best.
Such a good role.
He's great in that. Yeah. Best Guy Ritchie movie. I mean, I basically said that it would be something between Snatch or Sherlock for me. It would be my two favorites. Although Covenant and I liked The Gentleman, I think would probably round out my top 4 or 5. Those two would get thrown up there. I think they really are worthy.
Catherine Bigelow winning that year was she won for The Hurt Locker.
Yep. Lock, Stock was my favorite.
Sure.
I think. And I also want to go back. You said I had 60 seconds to talk about Guy Ritchie.
I mean, if you
guys,
wanted it.
Well, I didn't, but it was until you guys said that King Arthur was the biggest.
We call it a swing and a miss, meaning like
outside
it
of
was a
Swept
movie
Away.
that seemed
Okay.
perfect for him, and he blew it.
That's all I want to clarify. I'm like,
Swept Away is his worst movie. This is his biggest
that's fine.
swing and a miss.
That's fine. I want to clarify that because I will watch King Arthur over Swept Away.
Yeah, no.
yeah,
Like,
Okay, I just
Swept Away is like he struck out looking.
So
King Arthur was like he got his pitch,
yeah.
and he just like closed his eyes when he swung the bat.
And I will say I did not watch your guys Guy Ritchie talk, but I will say this: what I think Lock, Stock was the first one I saw of, and for me, I appreciated what it did with how he kind of was telling the story in that moment.
Sure.
So I think if your first exposure was Snatch or your first exposure was Rockarola,
Right.
like you're gonna get like those are gonna elevate up there a little bit more because it.
Yeah.
Once you've seen that storytelling for a while, you go, okay, it's still fun, but
Clearly. But like for me, I saw Lock, Stock first, and I think on rewatch, I think Snatch is a tighter story. I think it's better done. I think the actors are better at what the roles they're playing. And
He figured out his format better.
yeah,
So
I can see that.
a little bit, but it's the same way I think Pulp Fiction narrowly beats Reservoir Dogs in the end. I think it's just it was a tighter story with better performances, and the music worked better. And now I mean, Reservoir Dogs is amazing, and I get sweat, my palms sweat watching it, so intense.
So my work on the music plays this "Stuck in the Middle with You," and all I picture is him dancing around with the scissors ready to cut.
If you don't picture Michael Madsen dancing with a razor, like I don't know what you're thinking. Who carries a straight razor in their pocket? Michael Madsen, Mr. Block. That's who.
So I got a question.
Yeah, clearly,
Guy Pearce.
Guy Pearce.
Do we like him better in Memento or LA Confidential?
Memento.
Memento.
That's not a question. No, he's great in LA Confidential, but
I feel like Spacey kind of really might be the standout in that movie.
Well, I also think Memento is like it's
his movie.
Like there's nobody else. Even every scene is focused on him and his perspective, and he's front and center.
You're putting Guy Pearce against what? Kevin Spacey and Russell Crowe, and
it's that's Kim Basinger who wins an Oscar, and
and no,
James
no
Cromwell.
knock on the Matrix crew here, but Guy Pearce steals it in Memento, because it's such a one person, him struggling, everyone else is such secondary characters in it.
Totally.
Where LA Confidential, I think it is very much more of a multiple character piece.
Yeah.
Man,
Well said.
This guy's IMDb is insane. I started looking at Guy Pearce.
We're gonna get out of
everything.
here. I'm not gonna let us run too long here.
Yeah,
How does Guy here?
Yeah. Right. This is not gonna be Oppenheimer. We're gonna cut it short. We do plan more of these. Dan and I keep throwing ideas out to the group, and when we get Greg in here, it's awesome. One day, Fire Guy Ryan will.
So Greg did make his pick.
I've already made my pick. I've already
pick?
watched my movies.
You remind me. Sorry, I'm gonna get this banner down.
Shoot, now I'm forgetting.
I don't remember.
Who I'm
Die Hard
off of it.
Die Hard director.
Die Hard. Who did Die Hard?
And Predator.
1 and 3.
Crap! I should totally have this name.
John McTiernan.
Tiernan,
Yep.
there it is.
Yep, McTiernan. I've watched almost every single McTiernan movie. We need to do it still.
Nice.
I couldn't rewatch Rollerball. I couldn't bring myself to do it.
I did rewatch Rollerball, and I apologize that I put that out there in the ethos.
Hey, they can't all be good. He had to pay the bills after getting
but
like
those
basically
first 3 or 4
blackballed in
movies
Hollywood.
He did were
Well, no, that was like his
good.
last movie before he got blackballed
Yeah.
and went to jail.
Yeah. So this
didn't
will
know
be
he
the
was
one
in
we
jail.
hopefully do next as far as these filmmakers before hopefully the new year, so that we can kick off the new year perhaps with
We have to do it
actors.
for Christmas.
There you
Die
go.
Hard.
It is the Christmas season with John McTiernan and Die Hard.
And all I ask is this.
Yeah.
Is when we plan the date.
Yeah.
Maybe, just
Maybe.
maybe,
Sure.
rather than 5 hours before the show starts, say, hey, tonight's the night.
You want an earlier reminder?
Just a
Something.
couple days.
A couple days.
A couple
Gotcha.
days.
Gotcha.
To be fair, I
always-
forgot about tonight's show till John like all of a sudden like, hey,
John,
by the way,
that's literally like 6 hours ago. Like, hey guys, still on.
Fair
for tonight.
enough.
I'm like,
I mean, we had booked this like
2 months
weeks
ago.
Yeah, long ago. We had
So-
narrowed the day down, but then I just was kind of like, they'll remember.
so I get my schedule 3 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
Ooh, good, because
So-
I still need to watch Nomads, and that'll make me happy.
All right, well, Dan will help us coordinate schedules. We will be back, but hopefully this holiday season we'll kick it with a great
because
Christmas
Die Hard is a
movie.
Christmas movie.
Die Hard.
Die Hard is a
Right.
Christmas movie.
So I'm gonna take us out by playing out the video that Dan made that was so great for Guy Ritchie here. Let me load that up here. Thank you for making this, Dan. Thank you for hanging, Dan. Thank you for joining Greg and Carlito. I mean, hopefully we see you for McKinnon.
Oh, sorry. I have wrong finger.